Welcome everyone to the only 1,000 hours more full-time job T2 Linux release party. The day has come, we finally released of another half a year of hard full-time work here live on Twitch and YouTube. As you see it, and I'm happy to present you the most up-to-date, full-featured, all RISC and 32-bit systems supported T2 Linux. As seen here, Berlin, Germany, October 2025. Our T2 project is proud to announce the immediate availability of partially pre-tested, just like Apple and Microsoft, the users are the testers, right? If I make it any more tested and better, I would need to raise the prices. 6,500 change sets since the last major release earlier this year. 7,600 package updates, I kid you not. Multiple updates, right? And many commits, like sometimes 70 updates here, 100 updates there, right? KDE gnome things, KDE gears. This is why less commits than updates, and multiple times. Further strengthening the role of T2 as the most up-to-date software distribution, and to support all the RISC and CISC and very large instruction word explicit parallel Itanium, Intel's original 64-bit architecture, designed in Germany, mostly made in Europe. Of course, the latest toolchain, right? GCC 15.2, LM Clang 21.8, you might ask, but it's slightly newer, already out. Yes, of course. We have this in trunk already, but eventually we had to stabilize this, plus the latest Clang doesn't work, LVM Clang doesn't work for VIC, doesn't fully work for Mesa, and so on and so forth, right? And similar to Mesa, we have this, we actually had this slightly newer, we had 25.2 or so, but they removed DRI2 if we would have shipped this, so we reverted this 2 times, I kid you not, because they deleted DRI2, which brings me basically also up to the next topic, what's next at the end. But yeah, this will be hard times for us with Mesa 65.2, because then slightly older NVIDIA on Apple PowerPC G5 from 18 years ago or whatever that was wouldn't work anymore. Huge updates, right? As you've seen here on Twitch and sometimes on YouTube, we made so many things work. We imported and tested and tweaked and stuff patches for, actually, yeah, we even shipped with additional patches to make Qualcomm X1 Elite. Yes, they just last week announced X2, but that's not what we have yet. Latest flagship Qualcomm X1 Delete, early enablement. Altivecless, we even fixed issues that segmentation for the glibc on Altivecless NXP, previously Freescaler, so E5000 PowerPC stuff. Spark, the Debian and SUSE developers shared patch, tested that here on live, right? We had workarounds, but they found the real issues, which is amazing. We are of course the first to ship this. It's not even mainline upstream Linux kernel. DEC Alpha, we fixed network boot and able to actually work again, mostly anyway. SGIO2, right? Like T2, so stabilized, so much stuff done that Big Endian Firefox works, mostly of course broken in Upstream and Firefox for 6 years. We finally got it to work again with the best patches curated from the internet and further polished, as seen here live on Twitch. If you want to see me work on this stuff on a nearly daily basis, don't delay, subscribe for free today, not to miss any of those streams, right? There is still stuff to do. It's still segmentations faults for 32-bit. PowerPC, it doesn't build for MIPS, although once it did, and there once was JIT. Yeah, the upstream state is depressive. That is why T2 makes you happy of bringing you all the hard work enablement. Until recently, MIPS had JIT, now it's deleted, and now it doesn't build anymore. Intel Itanium, of course, we continue to fully support this and constantly test this. Sony PlayStation, all the Game OS patches carefully forward ported and sometimes tested, and we even added a new high performance. I made this turn up world's first 786, because previously there was only 686 things and stuff. Maybe some other people use it. I nailed this terms a month ago for x86 plus SSE, right? So that we have a proper name, because otherwise we would. Anyway, so other people delete, we did this so that the Firefox has JIT, right? Firefox JIT on x86, 32-bit x86 only works, only supports SSE2 enabled builds. And for people with their VIA CPUs, VIA C7 and variants or transmitter efficient and stuff, if you want to have a little bit faster 32-bit browser, T2 in 2025 is still here to support you. Yeah, absolutely crazy here, right? Not only our data AI bot helped to keep everything updated, we spent months, I kid you not, I personally spent hundreds of hours to update nearly everything, and the results show, right? We are now, as announced on our website here previously, some month ago in June or so, the most up-to-date Linux, and now we are the most up-to-date software distribution of them all, because there are more than Linux. So we are now scratching 96% up-to-dateness, which again, today I even downdated some packets like xfce2 because that broke Nautilus. So maybe we even need to downdate TCL, TK. We will need to see. So, but the point is, like I said before, I wasn't happy with the state of desktop Linux for a decade, and I took a sabbatical decade of not even running my own desktop, and now we are so back. We made all the RISC systems work that everyone else abandons. We updated nearly everything. We have only like 200 packages of 6,000 packages left that are a little bit old, vintage retro, bit rotten stuff that is hard to find if there once was some other release, right? So basically 5,700 or so packages are up to date, as seen here, independently tracked on the Repology website. If I would be able to type. As seen on Repology, just of course here for this video, Ravenport has slightly overtaken us, but that will not be long. The thing is they're much smaller and so on. Yeah, as of course you just make the announcement, but there is no doubt we will also, that's not a Linux distribution, right? But nonetheless, 96 is, if we would delete some old bitrot, we would immediately overtake them, but time will show. What for us, it's important not to be the most up-to-date at Repology. For us, it is the most important that after a decade of neglectance of my own other OS using, we are so back, right? We updated stuff like X image viewer, like XV, and other curse stuff that I've forgotten that it existed, right? Let's, by the way, restart his VM for some demonstration. Let's hope that still boots, because I just rebuilt nearly everything, so it might be some warnings of some random things. Yeah, it's only rebuilding everything. So if you're new to T2, right, this is a source distribution. You can install stuff by just T2. Install something. I installed literally 4,000 packages the last hours, but not neo-fetch or fast fetch. Certainly not the most important, but the good thing is not only you see how to install things, but I tested too. Actually, I wanted to, yes, the pop-out chat. I need to move the pop-out chat here, or to that window here. This didn't work because hyperlink. I'm of course live streaming from our own T2, right? So for those asking what can T2 so there we go. Now I see everything. Now we will see. What to say about Linus for mission critical systems? Greetings to Mannheim. I would personally not use Linux on mission critical systems due to the sheer code size and things, except of course T2 Linux. But via next that basically shall I subscribe wait to the end. You don't see people still using, wait, what am I? Phi CPU? Yes, I actually got one here. Does T2 support Intel Phi? That was deleted. Unfortunately, I have set on my to-do to restore 2. I have a card but didn't use it yet. But basically, T2 is of course the ideal distribution to keep this working. Windows 10 support working. I was thinking switching to Linux Mint, but I will give T2 Linux a try. T2 Linux a try. Yes. So finishing, that would be amazing. T2, of course, is a professional distribution, and also wondering, does T2 support? Okay, I've been there. Welcome, Trap. So continuing with a shout out and like basically, so I'm also live streaming from T2, of course, right? I am so back drinking our own champagne here. And as you all know, the European champagne is the best. Also T2 designed in Germany, mostly made in Europe with some random international contributions. And so we are back with T2, what we have done in 6 years live here on YouTube. We polished everything that is close to my heart, including making T2 work on 32-bit systems because upstream some things are broken. We fixed so many bugs that made it on Linux kernel or made viral videos, right? Over 2 million views, implementing a USB driver for Intel Xserve. But that's of course not the most important things. The most important things that we are the last Linux distribution to maintain support for Intel Itanium, the last Linux distribution that supports DEC Alpha, the last Linux distribution that cares enough to sure other people sometimes work on some things, similar to Debian Spark 64, or other random people to work on Big Endian and Firefox. But I copied and improved the patches from Oracle Solaris of all things. The difference is that T2 delivers something that actually works and is installable, right? Sure, there are some other people who do this work, which I totally invite to work together and make all the stuff better supported. And even make stuff work that never had worked before, right? Including T2 or any Linux on SGI, right? So on this SGI02 Linux was never stable, and just on our last year's work to actually, because it's a out of order speculative executing R12,000 CPU here in the SGI02 with non-cache current memory architecture. But hey, decades before Apple unified memory, right? And also, this is of course vintage and retro fun for people playing at home that makes good YouTube videos and is as much fun as the 8-bit guy or people reviving Commodore C64. But the point is, the T2 build system is ready to deliver and proving the point of it can be done, it is supported, it is easy, it is not much work, and basically I do this as a hobby, right? Most of the time of the 1,000 hours that I spent the last half a year here were generic package updates, right? To the effect that, or general improvements of improving the installer. It took, in retrospect, some things are crazy. That some things is we should have done this 20 years ago. And yes, we have Wayland. We should have long time ago. By the way, do we have history? Yes, we have. So that is the latest release here, right? Probably this makes, okay, then we don't need to, okay, now how do I exit this full screen? That is a good question. Okay, anyway. That is that T2 release, and actually something I didn't start yet is Nautilus should probably work it built earlier. And people always ask about desktop Linux, right? It is crazy that this is the first release ever on the whole history of Rock Linux space that asks to create a user. Yes, these are the small things, it are silly things, but these are, in retrospect, of course, what prevented normal users to use previously 25 years ago Rock Linux or T2. It's still not booting to graphic, but one more thing, we are coming for the desktop yet next. We said this before, So now that we have everything working, GNOME and KDE updated, we are, as I said, the most up-to-date Linux distribution. So we ship the latest KDE in GNOME. So you can install T2. Basically, we ship, as I said previously, we ship everything by default. Like previous last year video, T2 just does everything, and then some more. And we ship everything that you would ever need in the base ISO. That is, of course, a graphical Xorg or Wayland desktop with xfce by default and some other old-fashioned X11 things like TWM, but of course booting into xfce. Pipewire pulls audio, Firefox Thunderbird, QEMU, OpenJDK, and Wine for instant gaming and Windows compatibility. Basically more than Mac OS and Windows ship for you. Now that everything is amazing and supported, we spoke about this on Twitch. What is next? So what is next for T2 Linux? Next for T2 Linux, now that everything is working, we filed for some government funds. Maybe we get some. Of course, we cannot bet on this. Worst case, my company needs to continue. Basically, this, by the way, not basically, this release, as the last 20 years, sponsored by my company. If I would open the right link here. This release, of course, made continuously possible by the resources my company pours into here just for the greater good of humankind and keeping all the systems alive. We make a loss of this, right? I'm not earning really much money with that. Basically, Mac users purchasing licenses for our scan, OCR, and PDF compression applications cross-finance this. It's not like we sell here T2 Linux, although you can theoretically go here to our store and don't delay and buy a commercial T2 license. Not that we are not selling too many of those yet. So I just do this to have my own perfect Linux and be completely independent of big American failing technology with all the AI bullshit, telemetry, and stealing all your data and selling your soul and whatnot, right? So that is a non-commercial, no fuss, no nonsense, no AI bullshit, except AMD ROCm enabled T2 Linux that just supports everything for free, but donations are welcome, right? So what is next? Next is, of course, everyone can use this, and embedded projects welcome. So basically, if you build something embedded, appliance IoT things, like don't put your money on other failing unmaintained vendor board support packages, choose T2 Linux. Of course, next we need to import more patches of Raspberry Pi and other such board support things, of all the everyone hates it downstream vendor, not upstream, downstream cursed old vendor things, RISC-V and ARM and stuff. But the next big thing will be desktop, right? T2 currently delivers everything in a 2 GB image. We have like all those listed here, of course. A huge table of all of the stuff of glibc and musl. Yes, these are like 36 or so variants because T2, as you know, just does everything. That is fine and stuff, like even Power 8 and 10 and IBM data center gear. But 2 GB download, as you see here, with basically everything you would ever need, except KDE and GNOME. Yes, that is now the next month until 2026. We will make desktop Linux great again too, and work on booting on modern systems anyway, not on DEC Alpha. Next, we will come for the Linux desktop. That means booting to graphical login. As you've seen, currently it is a prosumer distribution like Debian, and arguably the more up-to-date and more architecture supporting. But share, like, and subscribe. Next, we will do desktop integration, full desktop integration, shipping something that is every user and every business can play along at home and just use like Windows and Mac OS. Yes, other Linux distributions do that, but they are the usual commercial sales things that are only available for x86 and not RISC-V and so on and so forth, right? So We are testing this, so all of this, as you see, this is working. The GNOME KDE stuff here, I've installed more stuff that, of course, you can start the stuff graphically, just I'm used to do some things here, right? Like, so all of this stuff here is, as you can believe, working. This is even, so the real world performance is even better because this is running virtualized on a Ryzen 1750X VM. So this has VM slowdown of software rendered graphic, and that's not even the same machine, right? Like, so I'm streaming this over gigabit Ethernet here through the office. This is how amazing T2 virtualization technology is in this day and age. So all the graphical stuff works here. That is what all the last years' work live on YouTube have been about. The latest stuff of basically everything. And in my opinion, what T2 ships by default is good enough already for prosumers. But next we will come for real desktop. That means, as I said, Bluetooth graphics. This will mean other integration like Wi-Fi choosers, things, stuff that we currently don't ship by default. Other things we could basically test here. What did we had guessed yesterday? Kate and stuff, right? All of this stuff, of course, works if you install it. I made, this is what the thousands of hours I spent this year packaging this. I literally just added stuff like today and yesterday still for even today a new future SQL package for some KDE things. But otherwise, right, chess and whatnot. Some of these games only built in T2 as of today. Probably somewhere Mahjong and whatnot. Education, I hear games. Where is Mahjong? Mines and stuff, right? You can procrastinate work like on, if it would start, wherever that is. Didn't start, tried to start this previously. Yeah, all of the stuff is here. So as you see, T2 has all of this stuff. Like Eye of GNOME and all the other PDF viewer things, right? Terminals, multiple. Yesterday, Chris added CDE. Basically, whatever you could ever need is here. And most vital things out of the box. GCC broke again with 15 release. I don't know. What precisely do you mean? So let's see. What else do we have here? Can this run Half-Life 3? If it runs in Wine, probably. Linux, okay, we had this, so let's see what else we have here. If you, so I hope you find value in that. My biggest value is, the reason I do this is I don't like many Linux distributions. Not 25 years ago when I first came to Debian or SUSE. And for me, that is, this is pure freedom, right? I'm not depending on how slow people update stuff on Debian, how slow they build this on real hardware. The ever outdated Linux distribution, right? Or commercial Red Hat and SUSE branding and shenanigans and canceling support and taking old 32-bit systems away, right? This is or Apple, yes, first gen iPad. So if you are, and of course this stuff is now slow, but we will also support things like this next, right? Like, so next we will do mobile and desktop. And for me, this is digital self-reliance, right? Other people prep and build their outdoor cabin and we keep computer systems alive. And as you see here, there is no reason always this cannot be supported, is too slow. I just found a VIA C7 in my parents' basement that my father used until recently for satellite TV. And that is still usable, right? 1.5 gigahertz, sure, it is top of the line VIA C7. Sure, you cannot do everything, but the thing is, companies always want to sell you the latest thing. And a Raspberry Pi 3 wasn't really faster than a VIA C7 from 15 years ago, right? And there is no really, like, similar to people who tinker with a Raspberry Pi. Sure, you can buy a Raspberry Pi, but then you spend money. But you can also use a VIA C7 from the scrapyard or your parents' basement or attic, right? Other people collect their Amiga. I have none. I don't have a Commodore C64 or similar such stuff. But of course, any of our supported systems, even a 386 or 486, and yes, we still support this, as you can see here. 486, all the other things you can build yourself. We sometimes build things in between. This is with Firefox and everything, right? And LibreOffice. And there is no reason you constantly need to buy new things to tinker some things. You can also just use VRC7 or an old iPhone, right? So in the long term goal also is adding support for more old Apple devices or old and new Android smart devices. The only thing is, it is annoying with the Android custom kernel stuff. That is super annoying to maintain and stuff. But that's basically our next goal. And because the problem is, there is currently not even a distribution to support old Apple devices, right? And sure, the 5-year-old Apple devices things are not that fast, but they're still perfectly usable, right? And that is the plant obsolescence and the great e-waste plague disease here of our modern civilization, of always throwing everything away. When in reality, a iPhone 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 would still make a very good system for DIY things, where other people just go out and buy a Raspberry Pi. Of which I don't want to say you shouldn't go out and buy a Raspberry Pi. I'm only saying an old iPhone Android device, it is ridiculous. And we are coming for that next too, that you can just install your own software and be free and liberated and stuff. Speaking of notifications. That is, of course, the upstream state is not totally super amazing, so that will be initially board support things. I hope we get some funding, and because that is, as you can imagine, huge work. So that would be like adding, like, there are some patches. Yes, there are. What most people don't know, even 10 years ago, you could run Linux on the first gen iPhone, which had an Samsung 32-bit standard ARM core SoC. That was not yet Apple Silicon. Of course, this stuff was back in the day super slow and stuff, right? ARM version 6 or probably ARM version 6 or whatnot. Yes, it is super slow, but just out of curiosity, education, or slightly faster stuff to use as an home controller, right? Like take an old, sure, you wouldn't want to browse the internet with a first-gen iPad, but instead of just throwing that on a landfill, because what of this e-waste is recycled or burned in Africa for some copper and aluminium, why not use all of this stuff like some touch control thing for your home, right? Like for that it is enough, or any, like that is the set state of throwaway society that even professionals like us, we cannot just download our OS like you could do on a 386. I pointed this out multiple times. I probably should make a dedicated video. I find it disgusting. Again, the problem is they are all incompatible and proprietary and custom and cursed. That will be huge work, for which I would be very thankful if you share, like, and subscribe for all our next steps. What else do we have here? Looking forward, booting to KDE from install. I'd give that a try when ready. How I'll deal with GNOME and further dependencies on systemd. Yeah, systemd is annoying. As much as I don't like systemd by default, we have a systemd package. We don't ship it by default yet. I'm willing to make the switch just for the home user business thing. It's not ideal, but I rather want to hunt and curate patches for embedded things than patching KDE and GNOME not to work with systemd. I'm not happy about this, but at the end of the day, my time is infinite, and ideally we should grow this undertaking here to big mega corporation, like similar to, if not vastly better than Red Hat. Could call it Blue Hat or so. But until then, we can just use systemd, which, yes, has, I mean, not everything in systemd is bad. As much, I don't like it myself for many reasons, and monolithic architecture and yada yada. Like, for example, cron, of course, sucked. So some integrated, like the number one thing that's acceptable in systemd is the integrated time scheduling thing. New T2, if install Oracle as, are you the, okay, which Unix Pro are you from? Oracle S7 Niagara 7 CPU, would it be optimized for that platform, or would it use Ultra 3 based optimization? Good question. So I've not tested that yet. We had here Last Miles from Twitch recently stopping by, right? I don't know if he tested that yet. The fastest I have, and that is also thanks to all your share, likes, and subscribes, I vastly could build up my hardware. Do I have a photo here somewhere? I think I have. I could vastly build up my RISC stack of compute power here behind me. So the O2 I only purchased 4 years ago. The HP PA RISC I got donated. The DEC Alpha I got donated. The Ultra 25 I got cheaply. So all your shares, likes, and subscribes, donation here, for example, on all the means on our support page, not only goes to pay my rent, but also occasionally buy some hardware. And also shout out again to Deep Computing, who finance increasingly we get project, which is amazing. Shout out again to Deep Computing, the, I believe, Hong Kong-based RISC-V company that also has a framework module and other RISC-V Linux modules. They sponsored a bit of work of bringing AMD ROCm compute stack to RISC-V, right? We shouted this out previously. And additionally, as a Raspberry Pi Foundation of all companies to send us a latest, I believe, Raspberry Pi 5. So increasingly we are being recognized, increasingly people want their stuff to work, and that is totally amazing. We need, of course, more than that. So any of those support, the most direct, the better. By the way, do we, yeah, here, paper. We probably need to style that next year to look better. People sometimes ask what means should they donate. The more direct, the better. That would be PayPal or Patreon. But after that, YouTube and Twitch, YouTube takes some 30% and Twitch usually takes even 50%, at least for most things in advertisements. So the more direct, obviously better, because otherwise you partially finance big American mega corporations. Yeah, don't delay, try that out today. Patches, feedback, and support your donations welcome. There's only so much I can test myself. We have increasingly test suite. We test with QEMU. We live here on the streams, right? So subscribe, follow for free, not to miss any of the fun live streams where we test on UltraSpark. So we currently cycle through the machines that we have here. So one day we test PowerPC, Power 8. We did even fun things like a CPU core of all things thermally disappeared, and we had to research and clear the guard partition of, like, I never had that in my life before. You develop T2 Linux and then a core of your 10 core 80 thread IBM Power 8 server disappears and doesn't want to come back. Fun stuff we do here. So if you want to see this stuff in action, or even the Sony Vaio P, right? About some stuff I have YouTube videos. Go through the archived video on demand list here on YouTube for this fun stuff. Increasingly, I should make proper videos. I have so no time because I basically for years work 80-hour weeks, right? 40 hours managing my company, doing CEO things and software development things, 40 hours of T2 stuff half live. So as you can imagine from all my commits, half of the time the last years I live streamed on previously YouTube, now Twitch, and half of the time of T2 stuff I also put in, like today, yesterday, every day. You see that here, right? Like, so maintaining a whole Linux distribution is a full-time job. No, it's not ideal. Some random shit will run here. So if you, I'm not making this up, right? You see this here in my stream summary things, analytics, where's analytics overview here. This is how much time I work on T2 Linux, right? And that is approximately half of the time, because if we take you, for example, since 8th to 9th to 8th, right? Yeah, so 724 hours since the beginning of the year, plus like double that basically for doing that off camera, before the stream, after the stream, at night, and on weekend and stuff, right? And we can only do that because T2 is so low code and so additionally automized, and increasingly new contributors, right? No Tech, Foxtrot, Kuluk, Chris, all the others, Matic, and everyone sending now daily patches, doing commits directly, and increasingly scaling all this up. Going forward, it will be increasingly difficult to keep all the things alive. As I mentioned in the beginning, the Upstream people deleted Mesa. In Mesa, they deleted DRI2 support. That is why we ship with the last month's version. That is extremely depressive. That the problem with that is that breaks graphic, like even not that old, like 15 years ago, 12 years ago. That makes me extremely sad. Absolutely waste of time. The big mega corporations at Red Hat, IBM, SUSE, Steam, Valve, Ubuntu and stuff, they only delete, or Intel and AMD, they only delete and delete instead of just leaving the code there. I find it ridiculous. The amount of work to maintain this is near zero. Basically, the amount of work to delete that is way higher. And those big mega corporations just break perfectly fine working old NVIDIA, Radeon code that until last month was working, and not even to mention DRI1, Matrox, that was perfectly fine working, right? Even probably Voodoo 3D, 3DFX Voodoo 123, 3D Labs per media. All this first gen stuff was also working until 15 years ago and intentionally deleted. And that is, we could have all those, sure, vintage and retro, but people install Windows XP or Windows Millennium or whatnot for their first gen and second gen vintage and retro gaming experience. And we could have all this working, but the big mega corporations delete this for code cleanup and maintenance reasons, when in reality they should have just left it there and it would have been near zero work. The problem for us, it's now like restoring this deleted stuff, because usually they delete some infrastructure around that. Like even Pixmap format, they deleted, it was fully working and supported 24-bit for 3-byte 16.7 million colors, true color here. For example, just here for this SGIO2, right? So because they deleted that 7 or 9 years ago, and they didn't, there wasn't a big reason. It was like, we want to delete it, right? Like we pretend it is work and optimizing. So they only left 32-bit, 4-byte. The problem is that is wasting a quarter of the memory or consuming a third more. And there are two main problems. The one problem is some hardware cannot do that, like S3 Verge or SGIO2. It can only do 24-bit, 3-byte per RGB pixel. So you lose 16.7 million color true color support, right? Just because some random famous graphic developer dude is like, nah, optimize 32-bit, delete 24-bit. It's like, dude, why, what, right? So all the original earlier gen hardware doesn't lost true color support in Xorg, right? For no good. For, nah, I want to optimize 32-bit. It's there and delete. And so restoring that is, given that they changed some surrounding code over the years, restoring that is increasingly difficult. Of what, if they would have just let it in there, it would have been zero work. And now due to other code changes around that, it is even more work for us to restore. Similar as the DRI 1 and 2. In an ideal world, I so would like to restore this, but I also don't have infinite times and there are more important things to do. which theoretically would be, I would rather rewrite this new and not xorg and mesa code, but some new modern code subsystem and hated I mentioned microkernel, but that is certainly for another day. Comment there, they claim code cleanup, but it's because they are in bed with the hardware vendors side or customers have to buy new hardware. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure if it's really that. I think they are just so misguided of believing their own fairy tales and not wanting. I mean, the support is only if someone finds a bug or security issue, which, I mean, realistically, nobody is running 20-year-old hardware in production, right? So, but it really stings. And that is also what T2, the enablement that T2 delivers, is what for me is the essential goal of open source, of making all this supported. And when I was young and naive and I came to open source 25 years ago, it was all about because we can and we want our freedom. And now it is, sure, we can, but we'd rather not, and we'd rather delete it, right? And especially when I came to Linux, graphic was barely working. And then accelerated graphic was barely working. And then 3D was barely working on some cards. And now, for me, it is all the standing on the shoulder of giants, all the enablement, all the hard work of all the making this actually open source Linux desktop possible. And now they delete it when other people like the 8-bit guy, Phil's Computer Lab and CPU Galaxy and Vintage Retro respective or this Man Cave there of slightly renamed thing there, MG whatnot in the UK. They celebrate all the vintage and retro and 8-bit and 16-bit, right? And we could have all this working and instead we delete. That is somehow the exact opposite of what we did not want, the planned obsolescence and not supporting that in like basically Windows and Apple deciding of like, no, we're not supporting that anymore, right? You need new hardware. That is not a Windows 10 thing or Windows 11 thing. That was already Windows XP and stuff. And vendors like now, GPU vendors are sorry, we can't give you protected mode drivers anymore. It's like, sorry, it's 3D is Windows 95 only. It's like, yeah. That is so strange, right? And that is a freedom that T2 in theory brings, and why it's particularly heartache to see for me all this deleted of everything we had to work so hard to make the graphical Linux desktop with KDE 1 and GNOME 1 and 2 and 3 and stuff. I've shown this here some 6 months ago with a Transmeta thin client running T2 or Rock Linux with KDE 3, and everything was, even on a lowest performance code morphing Transmeta, highly snappy, snappier than many things here are today. So yeah, that is shellac subscribe. I would love to bring back even more, but from this point on, we already undelete Itanium, we already undelete Orinoco Apple Airport, right? Theoretically, we undelete Riser 3 just to be able to read our own backups from 10 years ago. Although the latest version still needs some more polishing. I don't think you can have it both ways, saying if it's free to keep in and then increasingly hard to add it back conflicts. No, because they change. I can have it. Yes, I understand your point, but the thing is, they then delete, then there's like, this function was only used for DI1 and 2 delete, right? So over the years, it is even more additional stuff. And then they like optimize because like, hey, no, we don't have that and we can optimize this. And like basically after 7 years, like after 1 year, okay, but after 7 years, there's this accumulation of changes. And then unfortunately, you know how it is, right? there are so many renames of like renames is for readability, right? Like, so 7 years later, 9 years later, you have to undo all their optimizations or cleanups of like, hey, this function's not used right. So that is why it would be near zero cost to keep it in, but because they spent this efforts to rip out all this code, then it is 7 years, 9 years of spaghetti code to restore, right? This is why I understand what you mean, but you have recently just the other day Riser, just look at the Riser 3 stuff, right? Like just some months later, and they unexport that symbol. Linux kernel is crazy. In my opinion, Linux kernel API cleanup and development is absolutely crazy, wild west of random things. And as I said the other day, also no commercial company would do that like this. They would obviously want to have binary compatible API stability, and certainly couldn't randomly rename constantly things. Oh, there is this subscription. Welcome there. Highly appreciate this. I will have quite a backlog. Let's quickly go here through that. Again, T2 is so efficient. I'm no kidding. I'm live streaming from a Steam Deck, 3-year-old Steam Deck, right, or so. AMD is this custom APU 405. Quad core hyper-threading things, 15 watt TDP things, right? This is how like I'm literally live streaming. I kid you not, OBS here, right? Dual stream multiplex like YouTube, Twitch things, right? Triple desktop, like everything, one USB-C port, external stereo, audio capture, HDMI capture, right? This is here the peak efficiency and performance. All right, actually 1 to 2. So we are living our dream. We are drinking our own champagne here. And why you choose Fossil Linux over, say, well-paid job at Microsoft? Because I don't want to take antidepressiva and live in the not so free states of America all my life. I want to have my peace. And also I would have rather worked at some European, I would have rather worked at Porsche or Audi or Mercedes or Bosch or ESA or whatnot, right? Have you seen the healthcare and social security and pension and stuff? And the climate, the weather, you all. But beside of that, I want to make the world a better place, not a shittier place, right? And I also don't want to work with commercial low quality code there at Microsoft. Like, have you seen? I've seen enough Microsoft code in my life, not to wanting to work there. Happy to hear that you're a fan, and thank you for being a member. Sorry that I'll read this here so late now. Get to know you did it. Yeah, thanks for the cleanup. So what else? Please don't touch master P3 patches. T2 should work on P3. I actually dumped, I kid you not, like 15 years later, I dumped the first Blu-ray recently, and I have some improvement patches for that. I don't test P3 recently, so I only hope that it works on the latest release. But I used it, so that's the thing. Don't ask what I can do more. I already do 1,000. Basically, I probably work easily 2,000 hours a year on T2 Linux, and also as senior on my GitHub activity. And this is under-reporting for some reason, so it's over 5. Like it's so many. GitHub is, I kid you not, losing track of that. So don't ask what more I can do for you. Shall I subscribe, send some patches or money, a membership and stuff? My issue with using your distro is that it maintains by a single person. You go and support stops. What is your take on that? That we have, T2 never was a single person. We have now a increasingly growing team of people, over 1,000 people. Also, like, it's not like Debian or like, have you seen into Linux, right? My single person, not a single person anymore, never was a single person. Rock Linux was started by Claire. I was like the 10th person. There were Stefan Körner, Stefan Paletta, what is his name? There were other people. All right, Hamilton, Chris Hamilton. There were Armin Hamel, something plus minus. So I was like the 10th person to join Rock Linux across, or like 20s. And since then, of course, I became increasingly quickly one of the major stable developer, Rock Linux developers and project leads, and then the continuation of T2 Linux. But with all the history of Rock Linux, I didn't start it. I never was the only person. Over the last, soon actually 30 years, easily over 1,000 people contributed, and everyone can continue this, right? It's much more organic, community-driven than many others. If IBM decides to stop Red Hat, they stop Red Hat, right? Other big corporations have failed, like there is SGI's IRIX, there is HP UX, there is Intel's Clear Linux, right? Many other mega corporations went quickly bankrupt than my fun tiny little hobby project, thanks to your shares, likes, and subscribes. And everyone can continue it, right? We have more. We have now more contributors than the last decade, and that, of course, will only increase. It's not different than Gentoo or Debian in that regard, and it only takes a couple of people to continue this. Engineering school people. What else do we have here? Got Jeff Gilling. Yes, that is pretty amazing. And we need more of those, but basically you're the glue that holds it all. For now, but there will always be, there have been changes at KDE, at GNOME. Basically, what does some shaman running the GNOME Foundation or Linux Foundation help you more than a couple of community people? Oh, there was a raid. Headless Headhunter, thank you for the raid. Shout out, I only see this now. Shout out to Headless Headhunter. Things, how was your stream? What were you up to? You can icon stream from Stream Deck, but he uses things. Okay, Matrix, they claim codes. Okay, we have been here. What else did I miss? Mostly testing, multi-threaded floating point. We're testing as where are the Unix? What else do we have here? I was mostly testing multi-threaded floating point stuff, so broader testing. Not sure what I hear. So far I found GCC Niagara 7 actually generates slower code than without. Probably better. Oh wow, that is crazy. Yeah, that's sometimes the thing. I agree. I don't hate currently on Arch. Just curious. Okay. New 2. Okay, we have been there. Oh my god, the vision is actually great. How sustainable will T2 be? You might burn out someday. Are you still here, Range Bomber, for asking that? True. However, now T2 is in amazing shape, right? So now we can basically finally relax and enjoy our hard. We can now enjoy the fruits of our hard labor here. It took some years. I mean, sure, there are plenty of bugs. My to-do is, like, for example, this QXL, like Red Hat does so buggy virtualization code, or ex-Red Hat developers or whoever, like this QXL, like this is Spice QXL that sometimes stops working. We have, so, does it even, so LibreOffice, right, I hope it starts like this. It should have a menu entry for the next things. Like, you have here everything, right? Like, you can run your home, university, school. So that is everything. All of this stuff is in the base ISO, and then the other stuff just comes additionally on top, right? I don't even know what so that's of course a throwaway test system, right? This is why here's less stuff. And yeah, basically let us know theoretically we have Blender, that occasional needs. We even have the multi-track digital audio workstation, Ardour, and so on and so forth, right? So basically 6,000 packages and counting. We have even Trinity Desktop added. And if something is missing, let me know, or best send patches. What else do I? Okay, there are quite some more packages. That is when xfce to run T2 in VirtualBox. I had trouble. I hope we improved this. I hope you're still here. We actually improved some boot things. We will continue to improve some boot things. But it's basically the way I tested it always worked. When will T2 implement Copilot? When we take too many drugs or people actually really want that. Older Intel parallel history compiler, older GCC, older kernel from interesting work on the Intel firmware given turn. Yeah, that is, again, as I said earlier, I have one of those. I read today that there's a patch submitted Linux to PCI support Amiga Linux on Amiga. Yeah, not really. That is really slow. I mean, it's funny, but that's also like they add pointless stuff. I mean, yeah, that's cool things. They should do it. But it's as ridiculous that the Linux kernel developers took in Nintendo 64 support, which is a fun, fair thing to do, but they delete other things, which is, sure, maybe it's fair nobody stepped up to maintain it. Maybe I should increasingly, but I also don't really want to be the official maintainer of everything, but like at this rate, eventually it might come down to that. But yeah, again, there are 2,500 Linux distributions. My recurring theme here, right? So many Linux distributions and nothing fully works everywhere. T2, the irony is T2 has the most hardware support, the most broad and diverse RISC systems hardware support, and then not booting to desktop. But now, as I said, we're coming like, don't let this get to you. Now we're coming for the desktop too. So coming to the desktop, what does it mean? A lot of resumes. Kind of sick right now. I had to cut short, but core stream helping people get jobs, cooperate. Interesting. But got to run. Thank you for the raid. Interesting. I don't see compelling reasons from Debian to T2. I mean, sure, if it's if Debian works for you, it is just even Debian will not. Like Debian was always seen to be the multi-arch distribution, but even Debian increasingly gives up on that, right? But this is also simply showing how superior packaging system T2 is. That me, allegedly nearly alone, can build all of this on one Ryzen, right? Which, because Debian nearly only builds native and stuff, and we can build an ISO in 3 hours on yesteryear's Ryzen 7 50X, right? The other thing is, I mean, fair, as long as you're happy. Like, I have nothing to sell to you, which I hope is a healthy, surprisingly healthy uptake for you. I mean, of course, the Debian people also don't have anything to sell for you, but like compared to SUSE and Red Hat. But I mean, that's fine, right? But if you ever want something on some fancy RISC system or more up to date, the thing is, of course, for T2 to build embedded projects, right? That is what my company is using this at times for, and why corporations should choose T2 Linux is for embedded projects, right? You don't want a SpaceX terminal running on aging Debian things, or be able to rebuild it for the latest RISC-V SOC. Similar to even Ubuntu takes currently supported RISC-V away from you, right? As a controversial choice of only supporting RVA23, which is not even any hardware out there yet. And the point of T2, as you see here, is you're not relying on IBM's Red Hat or SUSE or Debian people. You can simply, like I, build it at home. Even stuff we don't ship, if you want ARM version 6 whatnot, ARM version 5 whatnot. T2 is the universal build system. that happy. And I did not even mention, theoretically, we have experimental support for building on Homebrew on BSD and macOS. We certainly should kind of sort of also expand to that. So that's also something that Debian cannot directly do. And sure, there is not that much compelling reason to use T2 for Homebrew on BSD. It was more of a we could theoretically do it test. It is certainly more viable on macOS, so that sure there's Homebrew, but T2 is basically the ultra portable and low-code clean package metadata collection, and we could save ourselves quite some work of not doing custom Homebrew for everything, or yet another port thing for whatever, but use one unified low-code thing. And to show you what I mean with low-code is, that is also why I'm not using Debian. By the way, we can use fun stuff like, would this be correctly sorted in, okay, that's maybe not hunted here. Why do I run stuff? Okay, that's probably not, where would they put editors like Kate? Do they have, I don't actually use that. Maybe here would be Kate, huh? Do they have Kate here? This doesn't. Okay, let's not try to search it there. There are probably ways to find this. As I've shown you yesterday, we have freaking Kate, or even gedit for this gedit for that matter, right? I mean, ironically, gedit even, I have to agree, looks kindly nice. Actually, let's try to load that in gedit. So user source T2 packages. What I mean with clean code packages things, if we just look here, for example, would this be in gnome gedit? Would that be here? Gnome. I would have not have a typo there. So much to also, like, people was like, yeah, why do you use this command line stuff? As much as I appreciate this auto-completing thing here, by the way, we need some coloring thing, by the way, I realize here. That is the metadata. So that is basically, so I mean, copyright, yada yada, Rocklinks legacy. I mean, theoretically, this is kindly wrong here, but some packages have that. Fair enough, copied from some other template. And look at this, the maintainer is not even me, theoretically anyway. If she ever comes back and sends some C2 packages. But basically the build system is only that, sharing some GNOME defaults here. That is not even needed. This is just sharing some common GNOME prefix if selected. So basically the build system only needs this much metadata. And the build system, that is what so this is only for humans, the web views installer, right? I would call this nicer than Nix or Gentoo or Arch, but your mileage may vary. And this was so forward thinking, this key value pair package format that we invented in the year 2000, 25 years ago, at Rock Linux 2 times. So that's not changed much in 25 years and aged pretty well. And the build system, the T2 package manager, takes a look when building and applies all the auto detection, auto magics, and detects, is there a configure to run, a Meson build script, CMake and stuff, right? And that is what I want from a package manager. That is what I wanted 25 years ago, and that I still want today. And that is how we hyperscale 6,000 packages, all the desktop environments, Xorg and Wayland, Mesa, LVM Kling, Rust, VIC, and all the modern good stuff of overall the 20 plus architectures and cross-compiled all right. The dependencies are cached. That is silly. Second day I use this. I'm a little bit disappointed that this doesn't save here. That is somehow a little bit annoying. Like basically the command line stuff is more efficient than this one. I would expect this to present me the same directory again, but the dependencies, oops, oh no, seriously, I can't make this up. Touch here my mouse, my audio volume wheel that comes from having basically looking better, but command line more efficient. Sure, you shouldn't click wrong, man. The dependencies are auto-cached, so this is not human written. In most other packaging formats, they write dependencies manually, even in Nix or Gentoo and Debian and things, right? In my, like, I'm really sorry to say, I mean, there is a reason why we can do this for 25 years without burning out with so few people, right? Because this packaging format is just golden. It is the best. There are very few things that you could do better. The one thing we might better for this release was previously we had conf files and I had the epiphany to move this code in here. We previously had code until some month ago. We had code, we had support for code directly in here with a code tag that could be shortened to O. But I had the epiphany. The biggest upgrade to our low-code packaging format actually came this year when we factored support like direct code here without text and deleting all the, like migrating all the, auto-substituting all the conf files historically that we had, and unifying that here in, it's basically, we have also done this year. You're welcome. As we cleaned up the dependency cache thing, regenerated most things, packaging updates. Did I mention 7,000 updates, hundreds new, like just for KDE, we added 300 new packages last year's and probably nearly 100 new GNOME packages, right? Even gedit we just added. Like, it's only this year that we have the new gedit and all its editing technology things and plugins, right? Close without saving because it was a demo. Yeah, that's basically T2. And let's see, what did I miss in the meantime here? Let me find my mouse cursor. Next, I need to, we even added some mouse cursors, but we need more. We need more visible, graphically stunning. So the main appeal of your distro is legacy hardware enthusiasts. No reason for so. No, the main appeal is embedded projects. Like, it's the #1 cleanest embedded target cross. The main reason is the cleanest, most up-to-date cross-compiling packages with embedded target things that just happen to also do server and desktop. Other reason is, certainly one reason is you want true free independent stuff, not being on Ubuntu's or IBM's mercy, what they deprecate and delete and migrate to. Be similar to Gentoo, emerge that from source, highly optimized, right? So it only does everything in the best possible ways. Most free, best possible, highest performance, and all RISC architectures supported. And we certainly need to work on the messaging. Basically, the reasons are from highest performance, hobby RISC stuff support. It is not specifically for vintage and retro hardware. It just happens to be so amazing that it does that easily with nearly no resources. Most of the resources, as I said, is, for example, AMD ROCm. Like, all the modern stuff takes the resources, right? Like 1 week live on Twitch here in spring of packaging 64 packages for and deciphering AMD's corporate code bullshit spaghetti math of actually, this was even worse to package. Like, AMD ROCm was worse to package than KDE or GNOME. But now we have shipping the latest, right? AMD ROCm just last week's released 7 or so already in T2. KDE GNOME updates already in T2. All right. Will you ever release your secret patches? Some people said T2 has some exclusive patches that everything is public. I don't know who spreads this are defamatory lies. Everything is the most visibly much nicer than Gentoo. Everything is open source. I sometimes even send stuff upstream. If you want, I don't know what other people just don't maintain this or are too lazy to copy and paste it. I don't know. you can share, like, and subscribe. Like, basically, as I have a job and an open source project working 80 hours for 20 years, like other people have their vintage car renovation project and work there 40 hours a week on Saturday, Sunday and stuff, and after work on their vintage Mercedes and Volkswagen, Porsche renovation and things, right? So I have my 40-hour open source thing here, and I simply have no time to send more stuff upstream. I sent upstream, like, when I send stuff upstream, usually shit happens, right? I sent a PowerPC GCC patch upstream. It took me 4 years of 20 pings to get a one-line change upstream, right? But basically, if you want, my point is, if you want that I send more stuff upstream, which basically the people don't care and don't welcome it, because, like, do go away with your old shit. I mean, theoretically, I'm the principal Itanium maintainer, and that's coming to the next point, right? Theoretically, I stepped off, like, yeah, I could maintaining this Itanium thing, because if they delete it, it will be even more work for us. Theoretically, they want me that I run more test suite, right? Theoretically, a Debian developer donated me 2 Itanium machines additionally, but that is all nice and stuff, but it takes even more time for me to set this up, right? So if you, that's the thing, don't ask me to do more, like, basically share, like, subscribe and donate, right? Because running this fine Itanium machines for 6 or 8 hours for GCC test suite, sure, it is our quality assurance and stuff, but it is additional work on top of all my other work, right? I appreciate, of course, highly appreciate the Debian developer donating 2 Itanium machines to me, but I need resources also to run it, right? And with resources, not only the electrons, for which I probably should purchase some solar panels for the balcony, but also the work to script the test suite integration. I had pre-tested this, right? It just takes hours, and it's not like you started. Like, basically what we need is we need to sit down and script this nicely, preferably partially cross-compiled, right? And that takes just time, and then it needs to run continuously, right? Like powering up every, like, once a month and running at least once a month or every 2 weeks or what. Of course, ideally weekly and stuff, but hey, shall I subscribe? I need an abundant place with solar cells and a wind generator and stuff, right? And yes, I meant upstream, but damn, I didn't know it's. I mean, yeah, it's like, if I send it upstream, I said this before. I said this. I'm not newly saying it, but if I send this upstream, like, I sent the GCC stuff upstream, it was 5 years ago, and it was lingering there for 4 years. I sent it properly to Bugzilla. Theoretically, yeah, previous videos. I have a previous video. Nothing happened. Then I ping, nothing happened. I sent to the mailing list, hey, I have a Bugzilla thing, a one-liner. Like, can someone pull in the one-liner? Like, PowerPC broken. Like, everything Altivec every PowerPC Altivec pre Power 7 or so was broken. Like, nothing. Like, I ping on Twitter. Someone's like, yeah, but have you opened a proper bug? Of course I open. I only ping on Twitter because nobody is reacting to my Bugzilla bug. Then have you pinged the mailing list? Yes, I have pinged the mailing list. Like, this is when I'm usually saying, when I quickly, I'm serial fixing things here, right? In the most efficient way. Interacting with Upstream just slows me down 100 times. And I'm not even freaking kidding, right? Then it's always, but hey, for example, the Itanium, I majorly improved the Itanium to not to be deleted in GCC, right? But it just takes an hour, like, doing it was a super small change, but testing this. But then for such Free Software Foundation projects, it just takes an hour to carefully word the changelog, right? This is just, do I have some, I don't, can't even show you this. And that is what I regularly do on why I turn to Twitch and live stream this on Twitch. And serve upstream GCC. My name should be here, for example, here. And the problem is, why does it take 1 hour? Because I need to do proper patches. Like proper is like white space, clean and nicely formatted and stuff. And then I need, for every project does this formatting differently. Then I need to read, okay, how do they format this? Okay, this is why it takes, I kid you not, 1 hour. Like nobody does that faster than 1 hour. This even took more than 1 hour, because like you formatted there, then you sent it in, then they're like, but this format and this, like, so it's adding up, right? So it probably, this took me easily 4 hours. This is what people don't see. It's like, yeah, it's just some changes. Like, yes, but I had to review the code. I had to change the code. I had to test the code. Like, in reality, probably just this Itanium. And this is the most minimal stuff, right? Like, just keeping GCC Itanium code generation not deleted easily took me a day or two. Like, first, looking at the code, testing will, like, T2 makes it easy. Simply rebuilding T2 like you can't do with Debian and Gentoo, like simply quickly rebuilding this, rebooting this, like another hour, right? Another hour. But just doing this once for T2 is a super highly low-code, highly automated, cross-compiling, super efficient thing. Then comes upstreaming, and that is text formatting, and every project does it differently. So each time I need to adapt, how do GCC Free Software Foundation format this? And then even dropping them, hey, I have here some changes. Do you need, then additional overhead? Do you need a copyright assignment? Like, theoretically, yes. Can you please apply for the copyright assignment project? It's like, okay, this time the change is small enough. It's like, yeah, but if you want to become a real maintainer, we need a copyright assignment legal paper from you. But like, yeah, this patch is small enough. We can this time quickly rush it. It's okay. It's like, but then it's like carefully reading, and it's simply not accepted. Like, if you screw this up, they just don't take you seriously, and it takes even longer, right? So you sit here 1 hour carefully formatting this, splitting this, doing this, like we're adding that everywhere, formatting the text and write, like reviewing, and then formatting the email, and then it's white space damaged, and this and that, and you already use your Emacs and Mu, and yes, this is why basically you cannot even really contribute to those packages with Apple Mail or Thunderbird. That is why, I kid you not, do I have this on this system? This is why I use Emacs for my open source things. I use which I kind of I'm just here. So Mu, right? It's like, this is not the super. It's like, yeah. It's like, this is why, yeah, email in 2025, right? Yeah, why? But I mean, I actually like this. This is how I did email. I just like quit this here quickly. Not exposing here everything. But yeah, even then I sent this with Emacs Mu, my good old-fashioned 25-year-old email setup, the one I appreciate text email the most. But even then, sometimes shit goes wrong, right? And then you look like a fool of like, you spend, I kid you not, 1 hour to format all of this. And then your email client, which sure, I should basically use that 24/7. But because I only use it for open source work, then I that wrong, and then like that. I spent so much time and still got some minor details wrong. It's like, I look like a fool and stuff. But sure, the more you do it, the more efficient. But the reality is, I'm doing, and that is, even if it would not be text email, then you need to register. I even recently submitted something to Vagrant, right? I've not heard something back. So I polish other people's, I'm not stealing, I'm polishing other people's PowerPC Vagrant patches. Like, hey, and I kid you, other amazing people fix Vagrant for PowerPC ELF version 2 ABI, and it's 4, 5, 6 years not applied. Of course, in the meantime, it minor doesn't apply anymore, so I tweak it. I forward rebase ported slightly, a little bit white space, surrounding context things. I submit, being the nice open source guy, spent 30 minutes registering at KDE, Bugzilla things and stuff like, and that's the thing, like everywhere I need to register KDE bugs, free software for life. Sure, after 20 years, you're registered areas. Then it comes like, which account did I use? Which password? It's like, where did I? It's like password reset. That is just sterility, right? I kid you, like, obviously I registered at KDE Bugzilla 20 years ago, but like, yeah, okay, password reset, right? That was a system far, far, far away gone with Ryther 3 on Ultraspark or whatnot, right? Yeah, so, and then it's like, yeah, that is the overhead. Logging into web systems, pulling, like, cloning the Git, pushing the Git, opening this, it's just sterility. It is 10 times less, like, when I fix something quickly, it takes 10 times the time to get it upstream. And that is why I'm sitting here and begging to share, like, subscribe, channel membership, Twitch subscription, or just share, like, subscribe, support here through all the amazing means, right? And that is why I'm, and that is a crazy thing. Like, even I applied now to the NLNet fund. I wanted to apply to the German Sovereign Tech Fund, but I wanted to apply last year. I thought we are not yet famous and big enough. In retrospect, I should. I thought, like, I make T2 a little bit bigger, a little bit better, a little bit more known. It took a year, and now they don't have money, right? Like, so much to relying on government. Yeah, at the end of the day, you can only rely on yourself and your own company and your self-employment if you want to have freedom and stuff and not to dependent on other big tech and government subsidies. So far, T2 has never gotten, or so far I've never gotten any government subsidies. And the thing is, I now, like, just applying to some EU funds, like, this is absolutely depressive for me. It should be easier, sure. Who should get something? Yeah, you need to apply, but applying is a super annoying, time-wasting process, right? Like, I applied to the NLNet fund. Will we get something? Most likely not. I wanted to apply to the Sovereign Tech Fund. Now they don't have money. I only spent 16 hours of writing an application last year just not to send it in. In retrospect, it was stupid. But at the time, my best friend in Berlin and we were, like, I even met with my best friend and, like, here, our T2 things, remember, right? And Sovereign Tech Fund, here's my application, what do you think? And we were brainstorming. Like, this is what people don't see, right? Like, this is the additional time on managing an open source project. And I even contacted the Sovereign Tech Fund last year. It's like, hey, we are not a eingetragener Verein, a registered union thing here, a registered club. Like, can we apply? Like, how can we apply, right? Like, I already spent management overhead. Like, this is what people don't see, right? Like, all the networking, even with government funds of, like, yeah, so far dozens of hours, like, hey, can you just apply there? Like, just applying there. So far dozens of hours spent for nothing. Maybe one day, but that is the surrounding reality. It's not like, I kid you not, people of, like, what about Futo? I applied at Futo. I had 2 calls, even with the founder there, Aaron, or what his name is. It sounded promising, but now they ghost me, right? I mean, maybe that they are just busy. Maybe it's just like, theoretically the founder there, Aaron, is like, yeah, sounds amazing, I can do that. But, like, so far nothing, right? Like, my last email is not even answered anymore. So yeah, that is, so don't delay. Share, like, and subscribe today. Set a monthly donation of $1. Imagine if 1,000 people donate $1. We already have some funding to make T2 desktop even greater. And please, yeah, this also, I even sent a P3 one-liner upstream, and then maybe I sent it with, because, like, upstream P3 is completely broken. I sent it upstream a year ago, a one-line change. Like, they clean up code, they deleted some index of no corrupting. But the thing is, it was a one-liner. But the thing is also, it costed me 8 hours to debug or so, right? Until I realized, like, sure, it's as usual. You debug 8 hours, storage doesn't work, and then it's like, they deleted a line of code there. And, like, they cleaned this shit up to be broken again every year. I sent it even in, Greg Crow-Hartman even answered, hey, it's oh yeah, that's important, but it's white space damage. It's like, and I was like, dude, fuck this shit. I did not. Yes, shame on me. I procrastinated that, but at the end of the day, I have nothing. Like you see, I sent it. Maybe I sent it with Apple Mail. I clicked on text and like, I thought like, yeah, for this small one-liner, Apple Mail is probably fine, right? Like, but this is also, how can all the fucking email clients, and yes, shame on me, why do I still sometimes use macOS? Like, see, I basically 40 hours a week use T2 Desktop where everything is amazing. And then I do my business things with our Mac software to earn here some money to finance my unsuccessful money-burning open source business. And I sent a one-line patch to Linux Foundation Torvald thing, and I forgot that Apple Mail white space damage is as small as like. I mean, sure, shame on me. I didn't use Emacs, but even I could not even use Thunderbird because Thunderbird damages it like. But how is whites like? Sure, the bloody email clients. Like, don't get me started on email clients. How do they white space damage fucking patch files in 2024, right? 2025 now. This was annoying 20 years ago. Sure, this shit is optimized for lifestyle people dragging photos and sending rich text email shit. But like, why has this shit not, like, neither Thunderbird nor Apple Mail a plain text mode that doesn't fucking screw patch files? I mean, sure. Yes, yes, yes. I hear you. It's like, yes, here somewhere, right? Here my, yes, yes, here. The Emacs Mu things, right? Yes, yes. Yes, theoretically, the irony is 20 years ago, I only used Emacs Mu and I was happy. But then I switched to macOS for a decade, right? But yeah, that is basically, you can only do open source things with a text mail user agent. Otherwise, everyone will just laugh at you. But that is also, at the end of the day, my to-do is 1,000 lines. Sure, like resending this not white space damage would have been the easiest thing. Although, to be fair, probably my Emacs Mu is sometimes broken, so it probably took me an hour to set up this stupid stuff again. But that is constantly the time-wasting overhead, right? Like, this is a crazy thing, the state of open source, that you need to waste your time with getting your Emacs Mu shit to work again, which, now I have it working again. For white space damage, it's not hard for Linux Foundation to run a white space I mean, Greg Crow-Hartman, sure, Greg Crow-Hartman, obviously the second busiest man on world, after me or so. I understand he has no time, but the difference is, in my whole life, I probably nearly never, like, just look at what random stuff I commit from Discord. I commit patches from Discord, or like, never have I said this for 25 years. I'm saying at Rocket League, I was saying it takes me longer. The thing is, this is some strange we are the better people DAO user education syndrome. I said this when I was 18, when I was 17, I said this already. Like, this is the dumbest piece of shit on earth ever. Like, it tastes like, just to show people the finger. Like, I'm better than you. Please send it to me, not white space damage. Like, get your fucking mail user agent configured properly. It's like, dude, yes, I know. Yes, I can. But like, you just waste everyone's time. Instead, like, it takes you longer. Like, in my opinion, they can add a node. Especially, it was a one-line patch, right? Like, literally copy and pasting it and committing it would have been solved. Like this, he just demotivates me. Like, I sit here like, do I have nothing else to do? Like, I have 999 lines of to do. I have. Sure, I talk no longer on the video, but hey, this video at least makes money. I kid you not, 1,093 minus some white space, so 1,000 lines of to do, right? And resending white space one-liners ain't really one of those. Please send patch. Yeah. The right thing for not big one-time file. So right thing is to copy and paste it and call it a day. They can add a line, hey, your patch was white space damaged. Maybe in the future, make sure to send it correctly in the first place. But at the end of the day, it's just like, when should I do it, right? At night? Like, the day only has 24 hours, and I cannot also work through the night, right? So, I've got 99 problems in my client. White space ain't one of them. Yeah, me no. I got 99. I got 999 lines to do, and my lifetime is too short for. Sure, in an ideal world, I mean, I hate this too, but simply get the stuff done and like not whine about white space damage anyway, I spent weeks trying to get a small improvement to quit a few beers, basically told them off and gave up, basically told them off and horrible yeah, it's recurrently that. Having to deal with so many, yeah, that is exactly. So Kulu, get all the patches right from the website. Yeah, so we have like, yeah, we are not hiding freaking everything, right? Like, so we are one of the most transparent low code, like all the stuff is here. Sometimes I have some uncommitted stuff just because I'm on the tag on the branch. I didn't clean it up yet. Sure, currently because of the re stuff, I have a massive amount of random shit here. That is not ideal. So this is, I mean, 300, that's not 300. I mean, here, this is just test suite. That's our own test suite. That's not top secret shit. Some of the stuff I just don't want to, like, yeah, there is some accumulated shit, unfortunately. But, like, also this part of this stuff here, this is not even real. This is just, basically, it's probably around 100 changes, maybe. Usually right now it's an all-time high because I'm building on a tech. And ideas, it's also like, sure, we could do this better, but basically, if I make it any better, you couldn't afford it anymore. Basically, we should branch and merge and stuff, but I just save myself a little bit of trouble and do this a little bit better. Not better, do this a little, I YOLO that a little bit for efficiency reasons. Anyway, that's it for today. Let's see if we get in any news. I have the suspicion not right, our love and hate relationship. Basically T2 remains the industry's best kept secret because how their mainstream media, I was like, yeah, this didn't follow, just someone not autocomplete for whatever reasons. I don't have high hopes, YOLO, whatever. Of course, the site that hates us the most will of course not bring a news, right? Like this wannabe news site here, every shutdown button, every unimportant change that's not news more important than every Blender beta release or tiniest change, more important than T2. If you're wondering why are we not more known, because we missed the point to be Debian, and now mainstream news just shows us all the fingers. Thank you for that. That makes me actually really sad and depressive and discouraging, right? The one thing mainstream media could at least do is sometimes some news, right? I submitted it to Slashdot last year. We have been a couple of times on Slashdot. Whether we will make it this time, I don't know. Theoretically, basically, if you want to help submit to some websites, maybe try to get us somewhere. I posted to the level 1 forum from Wendell. Once this year we have been here after I actually, did I even send it to the register? I had even chats with a journalist from the register. Whatever the maybe typos, register, whatever. So far, even after multiple emails of clarification, we didn't have the news. I'm not even sure if I CC'd him this time. Actually, I should check. Where here they have OSs. I don't. Yeah. Basically, I don't care anymore. You know what? Then we remain the best. Then we remain the underdog, the industry's best well-kept secret. It's what it is, right? I can't change it. The only thing I can change is my starting my own news website, which as some know already, I shouted out before, right? Like I literally started a Medium-based news feed here, which I should actually curate slightly more, just because in 2025, like here's the slashdot submission. If you can, I don't know if you can vote, if you have voting power, and I don't know if you can see that and upload that, I don't know. Maybe you can, I don't know. It's, yeah, some random vibe texted stuff. What should I do, right? Last year, 3 times we were, I believe we have been 3 times. That's the thing, you don't get to mainstream media sites, but with your cool shit 3 times on Slashdot. If you want to submit this to Hacker News or other things, be my guest. Otherwise, 2025, you need to run your own media feed. You can follow me here on Medium. It's like, yeah, I turned to creating my own news feed here because every smallest movement of Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg step over a stone or open the mouth in the most unimportant ways, and it's newsworthy. But a Linux distribution that just supports everything and has 1,000 fixes for headphone jacks and P3 and stuff. I think should test gaming performance with the latest Mesa Git things, and at least some mainstream media things will pick it up. Yeah, that's a good, yeah, we should do this. Actually, theoretically on my, I have so much on my to-do, right? Like basically we should make T2 more funded. Like if I could just get some more donations, some companies, I even shouted this out on LinkedIn. I'm totally open. Next, we need some big funding for some big things. And if you work in a big company and want your funding sticker here, like I'm totally open to make this here one news only. Like this also, like we vastly improved the website, right? All right, did I post? All right, I posted. We vastly improved website details. Some myself, some Yochi. Highly appreciate all the external HTML, CSS, and JavaScript work that went into that. Much more attractive modern website now, and we will continue to work on this. If we get big corporate sponsors, they can get a place here like similar on Open Embedded or Linux Foundation, right? Then we make this one slider, one news, the rest on the old page, and then here big sponsors if you want your name there for some thousands of dollars or euros. Be my guest. Because my to-do is long and there are so many cool, amazing things we can easily do. That's basically the summary, basically Q&A. Always interesting to get your feedback and see what's on your minds and what you're up to. Yeah, we should, like, theoretically, I have on my to-do benchmarking this with the Phoronix benchmark suite on Linux versus T2. The next thing, so now, as you see, T2 is so absolutely outstandingly amazing, right? It works on DEC Alpha, Itanium, SGIO2, like everything, and the kitchen thing, KDE, GNOME, xfce, Trinity Desktop, Cosmic Desktop, Hackaway. By the way, this didn't work without, I think, did I install this Cosmic filer? Apparently not. I think this needed hardware acceleration, so I'm not sure if this will work. And I think this failed here without DRI stuff the other day. T2 install Cosmic files. T2. Yeah, T2 is so improved, right? As you see here, suggestions and stuff. So many updates, so many dependencies, so many improvements. Just don't delay, try it out, shall I subscribe? It's absolutely mind-blowing. Like, I'm even impressed myself how much random KDE and GNOME stuff now built. Sure, there's always room for improvement. If you build this from source, there will always be edge cases and things. And you, like now I just updated TCLTK the other day, now uses, and some other things are broken. That's unfortunately the life. I wish it were not like that. Maybe next week should work more on multi-version, other crazy dependency things or whatever things. But aside from this, it is absolutely amazing. Outstanding. Look, we even have our own desktop background here. And next, AAA. One more thing. From now on, we will make T2 desktop AAA great again and ship the next releases at least on a mainstream platform or two, like AMD 64. So we will probably ship all ISOs like we ship them now and have additionally a AAA flagship boot to desktop KDE GNOME or whatnot experience. Shall I subscribe? What you want? Comment below. Which desktop is your preferred one? What are you into which hardware? Theoretically ARM64 if that boot stuff would not be so cursed, and RISC-V of course too. But if we have that configuration, it's basically only configuration stuff, right? Like maybe systemd for login and network manager and stuff. So we have all the stuff. It's only the one last % polishing of some configurations, some different package selection, testing, some patches and modifications. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe for that. Also on Twitch, from now on, we probably, as you see here, we increasingly need to run this a little bit more efficiently, like a Elon Musk enterprise with Steve Jobs' vision. So make sure you are subscribed for free here or on Twitch, so that you don't miss our probably from now on slightly more compact, shorter live streams to run our increasing open source Linux desktop media empire business slightly more efficient and have more funding for more efficient investment in things and so on. Also an AI person, since getting Rockham running on T2 has been easiest distro. So, oh, that's amazing. Happy that it, yeah. It only took me 40 hours to decipher and AMD spaghetti stuff. But anyway, have a good day or night. I hope you enjoyed this, learned something, and see you for the next big things. So now I only need to find my is it all right? Things here. Now we need to find the right navigational streaming control things of my overloaded multi-desktop thing, and see you next time. And